What's up, guys? Action activate. Pow, pow.
What's up? Welcome back. It's me, Gazbot, for Action Activate. And if I am Gazbot and this is Action Activate, then with me, as always, is this pup over here.
Oh, it's me. It's the big dog. We were both dancing off screen, but only we knew that until now. But we're not here to dance. We're not here to talk Power Rangers like we normally do. We are here to continue our highly requested, totally sarcastic series of Millennial versus Gen X.
That's right, big dog. This is our third episode we're recording. As of now, only one has been posted, and I didn't check today, but the viewership was low. I'll say that. I think the only thing that did worse is when we reviewed comics. So
no, Go-Go Loser Ranger is the worst.
Oh, that is the worst.
Anything we've ever reviewed.
Reviewing the anime, Go-Go Loser Ranger was the worst. Then comic books, a lot of which were Power Rangers comic books. And then this, we'll see how it goes. I do think of the three that we have recorded, well, including this one should do the best with our audience, the
Agreed.
Power Rangers audience, because these are Toku shows, essentially.
Yes.
So the past two, you kind of led, and then I tried to find something that fit. This one, I led, and it's interesting because the other two franchises that I watched, like there are things I saw as a kid, but I wasn't super passionate about them. And this one was like, no, I remember loving this when I was a kid. And I had the figures, and I bought the DVD when it came out. So like, it was definitely much more of like this is a thing I was a fan of and still am, whereas the other things were like, I kind of remember that. So I felt like it was a much different dynamic going in where I was like, this better still be good, because if it's not, I'm gonna be upset.
Yeah.
And Superhuman Samurai Squad. Well, okay, sorry, I've been talking a lot. You got it.
Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad was one for me. We touched on in the previous episode where Deke, who put out Dino Saucers, put out this show, and it was kind of their metaphorical middle finger to Saban at the time of, hey, you're not the only ones who get to do American Toku. Right. The only problem they ran into was this was a one-season Japanese show, and then they ran out of episodes. So, but I remember enjoying it a lot as a kid.
And the behind the scenes is that all of the Saban shows were Toei, which is Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, Masked Rider, all that stuff. This was by Subaraya, who's the company that does Ultraman, which is significant because there's a lot of similarities to Ultraman. And so they found like the second, I'm going to say second tier. Let's say Marvel and DC. This was the other big company they could go to, and that's what they did. I talked a little bit about my thoughts going into Captain Power. What were your thoughts going into Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad?
My thought was, obviously going back to different Power Ranger seasons, we've had mixed things. I've had more good than bad. Years ago, I rewatched some episodes here and there of Beetleborgs that aged like curdled milk, already curdling in the carton. This, I felt like I was going to go in, it was going to be like kind of in between, and I was right. There were things I liked and things where I went, wow, I'm really glad they don't do that anymore. But overall, it was more positive than negative, but in a rare turn of events, kind of jumping ahead, I actually liked your show better than mine this week.
I'll put it there. My show being Captain Power. This is actually by Drew Struzan, who's a famous poster artist. He did the cover art for the DVD release.
That's a great poster.
Not to be smug, but I was like, unless I'm, and I, to full disclosure, I have seen Captain Power since I was a kid. So I've seen it as an adult. It's been years, but I'm like, it's one thing to have not seen it since I was a kid, but I have seen it, recently enough that I don't think it's going to be garbage. And so my thought was like, I'm probably going to think it's way better than Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad. So I watched yours first, to be fair, so that it would go that way. And my going into Samurai Syber-Squad, and actually, as I was watching it, Tech Advisor Azuki, my wife, came in, and she was like, what are you watching? And because she's even watched Toku all the time, and she's watched her fair share. And I'm like, oh, it's Superhuman Samurai Syber-Squad. She's like, what is that? I'm like, what? She had never heard of it.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, you recognize it? And she's like, no, I've never. Somehow she missed it completely. And she's older than you, but younger than me. And I feel like she should have been exactly in that suite. And I'm like, I didn't really watch it, but it was like in toy stores everywhere, like the icon of him, like it would be hard to miss, even if you didn't care about it. And she's like, no, I have no idea. So, but that was my point, is that I knew it was on. I don't know if I ever watched an episode beginning to end, but I'd seen clips and I kind of knew what they looked like. And I saw the toys constantly. So I very
great toys, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely had a servo figure at some point. I don't know what happened to it. And this was also a time in my life back when I was confusing Jet Jaguar and Ultraman and Gridman. Like, are these all the same guy? Or like, and I remember thinking like, this is like an Ultraman guy, right? So I was interested to like give it a deep dive. But like you, I had not too long ago watched Beetleborgs, again, sort of for the first time. Like I'd kind of seen it, knew it existed. And I have a bunch of Beetleborgs figures, as you know, because I love chrome, vacuum chrome, shiny. So I have like a ton of them.
Toys are great for it.
And I'm like, I should watch this show. And I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
It was
pretty bad.
And this is from someone who's been watching old Power Rangers. So it's like, it's just comparing it to the other show that was on when it was on. It's not good. So that was, what I was thinking going, well, do you want to get into Superhuman Samurai Squad first?
Yeah. So I watched in that order as well. The thing I want to say before we dive into that episode is your show felt like an adult concept that they made kid appropriate. My show looked like it was made for children in elementary school and they went, bring it down to toddlers.
What's funny is remember last week I was really hard on Dinosaurs and you're like, it was kind of cool. I think we're having that with this and maybe it's an expectation thing again, because I was like, this was better than I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed it enough. I don't know that I want to watch the entire season, but I'd watch another episode. I'd review another episode. The action was good. The character designs are good. The human stuff was not great, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like unwatchably bad, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I will say also, tickling to your 80s fancy, Tim Curry, any scene he's in, even though you just hear him, steals the scene.
I think Tim Curry was wasted in this, to be honest.
I'm not saying he's
wasted. No, and I don't. Let me rephrase. Well, no, he was wasted, but not for the reason you might think. Yes, I do love Tim Curry. He's amazing. I've seen him in bad things, but I've never seen him be bad. I don't mean he's too good for this show, because I don't believe in that either. Like if he's in the show, he does. But I think he was wasted because you can't see his face. He's only a voice actor. Fine, but they have Kilo Khan, who's a cool character design, by the way. I like the way Kilo Khan looks. But it's like you have Tim Curry going, "Oh, what's going on? I'm Tim Curry." But it's like, "Oh, what's going on? I'm Tim Curry." Like they're putting so much filter on him that unless he's being super, super over the top, you can barely tell it's him.
That's fair.
And it just, I'm like, so that's what I mean by like if you're the sound designer on this show, you need to pull those filters back when you have someone of that caliber acting for you. Otherwise, why bother?
So we're not going to go piece by piece through the whole episode. We're going to piece through it a little bit quicker than normal because honestly, this episode has like 5 parts to it. Beginning fight.
I like how they start with a fight.
Me too. I love this. So for reference, mine is in the middle of the series at some point. I don't remember the episode number. Yours is episode 1.
Yeah, I figured
it feels like it's in the middle of the series.
Yeah. Well, also, again, we're skipping around, but Captain Power, and I don't know if this was more of a 70s, 80s thing that faded out by the 90s. The credits explain what's going on. Here's the world you're in. So I feel like they could do that and then jump in more.
This kind of did it a little bit, actually.
It did. I'm not saying it didn't, but
no. Just because all the other shows we review go, hey, watch the show and we'll tell you over time. This one's like, hey, here's 30 seconds. You're caught up. Let's go.
I liked all of the monsters, the robots, the monsters, every like fantastical thing in this. I love the design.
The designs are awesome. I love the colors too. Very vibrant, very cool. Reminds me
inside of a computer.
Well, also and you and I are both suckers for this. You especially. Right now, all of the background reminds me of your like arcade carpet that you have in your house.
Yeah, that's sort of like so ugly it's cool kind of.
Yep. Very neon, very bright, very 90s.
I do a couple things I noticed here. Well, even the designs, especially the monsters, just look like Ultraman villains to me more than Sentai villains, which makes sense because it's the company that makes Ultraman. But there was a lot of CGI effects, and this was early days, and it's not like they didn't exist. But I remember with Power Rangers / Sentai, I forget what season it was, but like it was past Mighty Morphin. At some point, some later season, I think it was maybe, I don't even think Turbo did it, but there was a point where they started slowly incorporating CGI, and it was way later. So the fact that this had, I'm like, what? That was like weirdly ahead of its time. Like I didn't, it makes sense too, because it's a computer-based thing and whatever. But I remember being very surprised how much computer effect, even this fire, it's kind of traditional. It's digitally inserted. You know what I mean? And like I think Power Rangers wasn't doing that yet.
Yeah, no, every part of the actual like digital world stuff was cool. I also forgot that like all of the rest of the crew are pilots and they just have motorcycle helmets on, which I'm like, I guess,
thought the same thing, but I think they're slightly different. I think like one has a motorcycle helmet, one has like a racing helmet, and one has like a old fashioned like Huey helicopter helmet.
I hate that character, by the way. I don't remember his name.
He is the worst.
Awful.
Worst.
This is the thing I was alluding to, where I'm like, just get him out of the show, and it's automatically 1 notch higher out of 10.
And I will, I don't know if this actor did anything else. I'm not there.
They took the direction as it was presented, so it's not a fault of their performance; it's a fault of the character.
I'm going to blame the writing more than anything else, too, because it is the hackiest writing. Like he is saying jokes that I've heard before that were old before this show that don't make any sense in this show. Like he's quoting Bugs Bunny, like I made a wrong turn in Albuquerque. It's like, what does that even mean? That means nothing.
Yeah,
it's like to kids in the 90s. It was all, and then there's other jokes too. I can't even remember, but it was just like somebody was like, "What are jokes I've heard?"
So time out. What marker are we on? Time marker.
2 minutes and 50 seconds.
So this whole intro part, the first 3 minutes, awesome.
Yes,
they spend just as much time on this weird interaction of words. I was thoroughly confused and like was just dumbfounded that it was such a prominent filler part of this episode.
This might, again, going back to Dinosaurs, this didn't bother me at all. I kind of liked it.
It didn't bother me. I was more just surprised.
Well, here's again, expectations. I thought she was a better comedic character than the pilot kid.
Oh yeah, it's leaps and bounds better.
And so I'm like, well, I'd rather watch her make bad jokes than him. And B, I assumed, having never watched the show, that she's a recurring character. That she's like the lunch lady that shows up every, like she's like the Ernie or whatever. Is she not?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, because and who's this character?
She seems like she's like part of the student council or something.
I thought she was going to end up being part of like the Superhuman Syber-Squad team.
I knew she wasn't part of the crew because the crew is only the 4 people we saw in the first minute.
Well, and I kind of realized as that went on, but like, again, not knowing the show, I assumed these two were semi-main characters that we saw all the time. And so it didn't bother me. And like this lady, also like was like a little bit racy for as young as this show is skewing. She was making kind of allusions to sexy stuff basically.
Yeah, I'm curious when this is over how long. Okay, go back. How long was that whole interaction?
Oh, okay. It was about 2 minutes.
It felt longer.
Well, I'll double check. Hold on. So we
were at 3 minutes and then it ended. It seemed like the 5 minute mark.
About 2 minutes for her.
It was like
that's not counting credits, so it might have been about the same length of time for the fight as it was talking to her. But
which again, it's wild to me.
And I would say, they're trying to save budget, but all of this is saving budget. They could have the main characters talking, which is why I assume she's a main character. Okay,
get that guy out of here.
So we got Terrible Billy, and then we got Slater and Zach and Blossom, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And his brother was in Blossom, right? Like
yes.
This is.
So Joey was in Blossom. This is Matthew. And then they have another younger brother named...
Doesn't matter. He's not.
I forget.
I will say one thing. They're doing all their, and they're all very stereotypical characters. And he does this. I don't know if he's supposed to be a mad scientist inventor and this is him always doing stuff, or this is a one-off. It
felt like a one-off. I don't know.
Okay.
Though.
I imagine, he's kind of like Billy if Billy was incompetent and annoying is kind of what I got of it. But he's trying to cure his headache with an electrical thing. Didn't like this. It was silly and over the top and cartoony. But I will give points. Later on, we see him in the background, like scenes later, and he's still covered with black and all messed up.
I will say the continuity
Yes,
You
and it
get
made
a
it less of a cartoon where they turn to Ash and more like, no, it really burned him. I'm like, okay, that like it. I don't know. It made it feel better when I saw that.
Their interactions seem odd, but I kept on keeping on waiting for more Gridman
There's no
footage.
chemistry between the characters at all.
Yeah.
It seems like they're written. It seems like they tried to make a diverse type of like she's the bookworm and he's the jock because that's what Power Rangers does or whatever. But then they're just reading lines and you don't know why they're friends. And again, maybe early on you find out he saved his life and she's, whatever. But like, it does seem like they're just sort of in class together and that's why they're talking.
Yeah, and the two of them, I think, like each other. Maybe, who knows? Then the bumbling idiot comes in and ruins it. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, it's the fact that he's on his computer all the time is kind of funny. The bad guy, Malcolm.
Right.
I thought he was arguably the best face actor we saw in the whole show.
You might be right about that. I mean, he did have kind of an easier character, just be like over the top melodramatic. I would say it's between him and the lady that told all those stories about being in the circus. No, she wasn't that great, but the Matthew Lawrence.
Yeah,
wasn't
Matthew
bad.
Lawrence. No, he's good. I do like that. Like, again, this is a random episode I picked. I picked it mostly because the name was like Lights, Camera, Action.
Why did you not pick the first episode out of curiosity?
Because I feel like as I was going through, the first episode would be a lot of like, hey, like, where's the action? We got to build to it with all this kind of like foo-foo stuff. And yours, just from the thumbnail of yours, I'm like, I have a feeling yours is going to have a lot more substance and it's going to make this show seem unwatchable. Where I'm like, let's just jump in the middle of it and like, it'll be a better representation.
Yeah, so he tries to be friends with him. And this guy's like, I like being alone. I wonder if you could be alone. And so he talks and it's weird that he's talking to Kilocon and he's like, be quiet. Why doesn't he use headphones?
Budget, yeah. I don't know.
But it does seem weird that he's trying to secretly talk to his evil partner and he doesn't want anyone to know.
In the middle of the cafeteria.
Yeah. I want to be alone, so I'll sit here wearing black talking to a monster.
Yeah. Their back and forth I thought was pretty good. Again, Kilocon, great design. Yeah, but yeah, like a weird plot. And this was another one where like when it started, I'm like, there's no reason the villain should lose. And then I'm like, you actually did a decent job of why the villain lost. I'll give you full props here. Cool monster. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Mecha Godzilla cannon face, but awesome.
I think it's camera face because it's the camcorder monster.
I'm pretty sure it's Mechagodzilla Cannon Face. Could be wrong, but
I thought it was weird when he came in. Like the idea is this virus is going to take over, and they let it play for a second. And this thing represents part of the inside of a camcorder, which I'm glad that they didn't try to get it right because they would have got it wrong. Oh, look, those are like little ping pong balls down in the bottom left, like little wiffle.
Oh, the wiffle balls. Yeah.
But he turns it from one thing that is not part of a camcorder into another thing that's not part of the camcorder.
Sure, and whatever.
Later on, we see a better close-up, and it's like an eye with fuzz around it. It's just weird. It's like,
hey, everything in the digital world looks like that in here. Yeah, the goofy guy with this weird.
He's gonna go. He's a dissection volunteer, but he's not.
Also, going back like one. Look here. It's like, oh, let me just. Really 90s it up and just give it a sec. Everybody's leaving and teleport.
Oh yeah, and then he goes. Wait.
Yeah, I love thinking of like, okay, you're gonna fall back, but like, don't actually fall back, and we're gonna edit you out, and he's just
it's like
something.
You know what's funny is that effect was not great, and I was thinking like. Oh yeah, I mean like that's not Tron. Like when he got digitized, I'm like but that even though that was older, that was like a Disney movie, and I'm like wait. There's a digitization scene in Captain Power, which is older than this, that looks a million times better. Well, yeah, I mean...
This you could tell the budget. You could just tell, looking at it, that it was lower.
They spent way too long having him go, what? I'm alone. Why am I alone? How come I'm alone? Where is everybody?
Padding the runtime. We spent 2 minutes talking about ex-husbands and getting shot out of cannons and monkeys. Like, the show just wants to use as much filler as it can to be like, here's your 4 minutes before Ultraman goes back. Like,
and I will say, Yeah, and maybe it's this episode, but you're right. The stuff where the main human villain is talking to Kilo kind of doing his thing is the most interesting filler because at least something's happening. And yeah.
And they're interesting.
Yeah.
I did think, again, like, looking at this with an adult lens of like, everybody is just being told what to do and they're doing what they're told. Well, he was goofy and over the top, and I know he's a better actor than this, and they're just like, do goofy stuff, and he's like, okay, pretend to fall backwards, like,
and then we saw his hair to show that he's gone crazy.
Yeah, like we saw him around the same time, slightly before, and Mrs. Doubtfire, way better than this so far. You're just taking what you got. This guy needs to get out of that chair and leave the entire series. Everybody else is cool.
Terrible. Well, everybody else is acceptable.
No, I thought she actually did a really good job of quote unquote man in the van or woman in the van in this case.
Better. Here's what I feel like: if you got rid of the nerdy guy, then the jock would be the next one. Be like, he'd be the new terrible one,
Probably. But this was cool. They were like, "Where is he? I don't know. Let's check the digital world. I don't see him anywhere. Let's use his wrist communicator to locate him." Great idea. And then they do.
Agreed. This was dumb. I didn't like this.
Yeah. But again, it's like, how long have you been in there? 40 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. But then it turns into servo.
Side note, the wrist actual like henshin device, really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
Kind of really want it.
It is I'm surprised you don't have it actually.
Nah, it was one I had a couple figures as a kid from the show. And then I got more stuff as an adult.
All of this is so Ultraman, and like knowing now it's the same company, but it's like if Subaraya hadn't produced Ultraman, I think they'd be if Subaraya hadn't produced this, they'd be suing them basically because there's a lot of similarities.
No, it is Ultraman. Like it's Ultraman.
It's a cyberspace Ultraman.
Yeah, it's digital Ultraman. That's why it's called Gridman.
But especially when he gets big, like that, the fist coming to the camera, like that's literally every Ultraman.
Oh, I know.
I'm saying, I know you know, sir. I'm saying this for the benefit of...
No, everybody knows. We're good. The one thing I will say is there is one vehicle that they don't use in this episode, which is my personal favorite. Was a little bummed he's not in there. Drago.
Oh, yeah. I've seen
the red dragon. That's my favorite form. But hey, Xenon's cool too. That's what the Megazord that they make together. And then like... I forget what they call it when they fuse with Servo at the beginning. I actually prefer when they're two different things more than when they're fused into one.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. I do too. Usually you're the one who likes the fusion. I do think Xenon looks a little bit suspiciously like Optimus Prime because of the
kind of, yes.
That's the Ultraman shot.
Yeah, I agree, but I like how like just clean he looks, which is again odd for me to prefer.
That's something I would say normally.
But yeah, Drago was my what. Like I liked seeing him in like the Drago form,
right?
And then them as Xenon next to it. Like that was my perfect like
combos. Like the 3 hero lineup.
No, not the 3. The Drago Servo combo.
Oh, Drago Servo. Oh, okay. I didn't know they had a combo.
And then Xenon. Yeah, actually, here filibuster for a sec.
Also, well, this is the part where they transform. He's the main guy that turns into Servo. I forget what he said. But there's something
no
like
Cyber. Getting that off the shelf without toppling everything over. So use your imagination.
He says something when he transforms that sounds like his catchphrase, like Cyber Time, or I forget what he said. All 3 of these like seem to just say whatever popped into their head.
Can you put closed captioning on? I'm very curious what they say because I remember it was weird.
And okay, so she says something like, "Pump up the power." He says, "Let's kick some gigabutt," and he says, $3 for $1. So I feel like he clearly was just saying random stuff, but were they also like, do they not have normal catchphrases, or is pump up the power and kick some kilobyte?
I will say, Matthew Lawrence's catchphrase was actually kind of cool. It was like,
what was it?
It was like samurai something.
Samurai something.
Go back. Let's go back.
All right.
I just want to see it, and then we're gonna keep on keeping on. Almost. Okay. Here we go. What does he say?
Samurais.
Oh yeah, it's samurai guys. It's like,
wait, no, I think that's a mistranslation. Hold on, I'm gonna turn the sound for me. Oh, it is samurais guys. Is that really what he said?
I think he does, which I'm like, it's kind of dumb, but I like it. I just made you hate it more.
You did. Hold it high and smile. Yeah, I'm ready. Samurais, guys. Why? What do you say, guys?
Because it's the 90s, man.
It's like saying morphin' time, pals. Like, what is this other? Why are you adding to it?
I don't know, man.
That's dumb. I don't like that. I don't like any of their henshin call-outs. His is the best, but they're all bad. So he's in trouble. They all go in. They form Xenon. I thought it was interesting, too, that, like, at the end of the fight, and this is more padding, they show them all untransform, get back into their tanks, then turn back into energy. Like, okay, they just needed to fill some time here.
Yep. All I got out of this episode was we got 7 minutes of footage.
Yeah. I mean,
and I need 14 more.
That's true of, like, all of these shows, but it just felt very apparent. This is how you know it's not Ultraman, though, because he does his finishing move. It's not a Specium Ray. It's more like an Ultraman Ace thing or whatever. But he throws it, and it cuts him into 4 pieces. And that's it. And if this was Ultraman, blood and fire would be coming out of that. That's the main difference.
Everything's cool, though. Like, all this is just very aesthetically cool.
The design, it makes me want to watch Gridman, is what it makes me want to do.
Yeah. I understand why he's such a beloved character visually. This part at the end, I'm like, you're never getting out. The show's over.
Yeah, and then we never see him again. He's been defeated, right?
Yeah.
Ultra
as far as I know. But again, it was fine. Hot take, prefer this over many Mystic Force episodes.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is a really hot take.
Yeah. I enjoyed this more.
I understand, and I can kind of agree, but I think the stakes are lower. We're just jumping in and laughing at the bad parts and having fun with the fights. If we were watching a whole season of this and like really reviewing it and trying to follow the story and the characters, I don't think we would actually. Also,
though, this was made by a different company for a younger audience 10 years prior to Mystic Force.
This is where I'll meet you. I've been watching these debate shows where like the idea is to come to a compromise statement in the middle. Have you seen these? And
we're versus each other. The whole series is us fighting.
But I feel like the compromise statement I would say is, I enjoyed watching this more than I enjoyed watching some episodes of Mystic Force. I do not think that means this show is better than this.
Oh no, I never said that.
Okay, so we've come to a compromise statement that we can both
boom.
Agree.
See, if only the world was like this. Anyways.
All right, so but I did like it more than I thought I would. I am interested in watching Gridman. I would even watch Superhuman Samurai Squad again to see like what was normal and what was like not normal, and just kind of get a better feel for it.
You're like, that one guy's always terrible. Everybody else kind of milquetoast. And the fights are cool.
The old woman cafeteria lady shows up again. Like that, is that a thing? I don't know.
What if she's a pilot one episode? That would just be next level. Now, before I let you take the floor with Captain Power, I feel like this tonally is what everyone wanted, right? Like in that weird 2014 to 2017, like Neo Saban era Power Rangers, where they're like, we need something dark, but like, you know, change it up a little bit. And this is ahead of its time in that sense of like, if that was transported 20-ish years later, it would be doing gangbusters.
I mean, I agree. And I think this was ahead of its time in so many ways, good and bad. The CGI was ahead of its time. It was one of the first fully CGI characters ever on television, if not the first. It might have been the first.
It was pretty good considering.
It's not, I mean, it's dated, as people will see, but it was better than stuff that came out later. You know what I mean? And it was like it failed. It only got one season. And I think any kid who watched it was like, that show was great. It didn't fail in terms of people liking it. It failed in terms of it was made to sell toys, and it didn't sell enough toys. It got controversial because it was too violent. And weirdly, the show was maybe violent, but the idea of shooting at the screen, even though what you're shooting with was like a spaceship, there were like parents groups that didn't like that. So like, there was a lot of weird behind the scenes stuff, and like the writers who worked on it weren't really interested. If you notice, there's a lot of like glowing stuff on people. That's part of the game where you would play with the toys with the show. They weren't really interested in that, but they were forced to do it. And at first it wasn't that bad, but then they found out they had to make them bigger, and they had to have a certain amount of footage of it. So there was these weird constraints put on them. And so like, there was just like all kinds of warring factions. One interesting thing is one of the big, not the creator, but one of the bigger writers on it is J. Michael Straczynski.
Whoa!
writer.
I
Yes.
did not know that.
He wrote several episodes of Captain Power. Yeah.
That is very cool. Shout out for people more in my generation. He was responsible for a lot of the mid 2000s Spider-Man runs, all the way up into the very controversial One More Day storyline.
Yeah, he also wrote some Silver Surfer. He created Babylon 5. He worked on, I think, Star Trek and
Rising Stars was a 90s kind of deep cut indie series.
If you look, he's done a bunch of comic book writing, a bunch of television writing, and including some old like 80s comic cartoon shows. Like he's not in charge, but he like wrote a script for Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, or He-Man or whatever. But this is something he worked on, and I don't know how much he's responsible for the tone of it, but it shows that that's like the type of quality they were going for. They were trying to.
Yeah, no, the quality of this I think is there. I think it's tonally very dark.
Yes.
As we kind of dive into it, and they do a great job in the beginning of kind of tossing you in, and it's one again that I was like, is this labeled episode 1, but it's really not episode 1? Because they really just throw you in.
They do. I'm gonna let just the intro play as we talk. I got this off YouTube, so if we get a strike, it'd be bizarre.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about, where they just explain like it's the future and like the machines have won, and like this definitely has influence from Terminator and other things like that. Blade Runner a little bit. This is the digitization we were talking about. See, like that effect getting sucked in. That's first of all terrifying, and second of all just better. The effects are nuts in this. Like I don't know how.
Very good Emperor Palpatine ripoff.
Yes, but if you notice his looks. Oh, you're not a Star Trek guy, but you've heard.
I know it's a Borg. I get it,
but he's not a Borg. This came out like 2 years before the Borg came out.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not saying the Borg ripped him off, but he didn't rip off the Borg. You know what I mean? Like it predates the Borg. So I thought I always feel the need to point that out because people are always like, "Oh, he ripped." I'm like, no, not possible. It was 2 years before. Like.
Yeah, aesthetically, can you move your mic a little bit closer? I'm getting some echo on my end.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like I'm still getting echo, but we'll figure it out. Only right now, for whatever reason. Now we're good. I think the way that this is kind of subtle, like I said, if this was placed a little bit further, it's like, oh, it's subtle, it's cool, it's not trying to be over the top. Whereas I feel like, to your point, this would have been more successful if it was a little more over the top.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this is me reading stuff after that because as a kid I was like, this is cool. It also was one of those shows that the time got moved around a lot. Like at some point it was on at 5 a.m. on a Sunday, and like so people couldn't even find it. But again, this goes back to the Warring Factions, where they wanted a show that would appeal to kids and adults. And I think the show it does appeal to kids, but it's they never got adults because they specifically the name Captain Power, the Soldiers of the Future sounds cheesy. So no adults were watching this at the time. I think since then, maybe some have found it.
When you brought this up, I thought it was animated just based on the name.
There you go. And this is back in the days when you would look at a TV guide or something. Like it's not like you would really know what you were going to watch.
Like Captain Power, I'm like, oh, is that before Captain Planet? Like it's kind of the precursor or something.
Cheesy name. Now, and of course, in the show, his name is Jonathan Power, and he's a captain in the military. So Captain Power, kind of like. But it still sounds cheesy. And the Soldiers of the Future, which is something that is never said in the show at all. So that was like the Warring Factions of who are we appealing to here. But yeah, like it's again, kind of like I said with Gridman, but even more so all Gridman. I mean, Superhuman Samurai Squad. Yeah.
This right here, by the way, if I just saw this image on Facebook, I would assume, and this is not a knock on the show, it's actually a compliment on the show. Sure. I would assume that somebody posted an AI generated photo of something in the 80s era, but like Iron Man, if he was in a movie in the 80s or something, where it's like, okay, but this was like an actual cool thing in the 80s. So props to them.
This is what I point to. There's a thing, I don't know how official this is. I use the word Ameritoku. I've heard other people say it too. But like basically tokusatsu style shows made in America. And it's a very hard thing to define because tokusatsu is just special effects and whatever. But like I always point to this is Ameritoku. Like this feels like it's American for sure. It's got its own conventions but like it's people transforming into superheroes and like weird monsters they fight every week. And like and there's an evil villain in a lair. Like this feels like it could have been made in Japan. Like, but it wasn't.
I feel like if you and I got like SH figure art style figures of this, would be like, these are awesome. If you got GI Joe style figures of these, you're like, these aren't GI Joes.
You're right. You're exactly right. And they did have a toy line. They've only ever had a vintage line. They've never gone further. And I'm looking because I can see a few on my shelf, but I can't get them easily. They had vacuum form for the armor. They weren't very show accurate. The vehicles aren't even in the show really. Like it occurs to me, the Power Jet X20, like it was one of those ones where the toy line was like kind of, it wasn't separate, but it was like almost like He-Man. When He-Man started, it was like Castle Grayskull and Skeletor, and it came with mini comics where it's like he's a barbarian and they're fight, and it was like this whole serious like kind of Conan the Barbarian story. Then the cartoon came out, and it sort of matches the toys kind of, but the toys were like not what was on TV, and that's what was going on with this too. There was this whole story going on, and he has the Power Jet X20. There's no Power Jet. They're not flying around in jets. They have one ship that they all go in, more like a military vehicle. And and Lord Dredd had this fighter ship, and like and as a kid, I didn't question it as much, but it is weird that like most all of the toys were not in the show. Like it was just very weird.
Yeah, it's one just again peeling back the layers, thinking of this in the sense that we think of the other toys. Like, what is the purpose of the show? It's an ad for what? For toys.
Yeah,
I can already tell watching this. I'm like, these toys are very specific, and you either appeal to the GI Joe kids, but then you don't because these are in the future, and there's not future GI Joes at the time. Like, it kind of put itself in this weird niche where it's really cool because it's an innovator on all of these concepts, but it is so far removed from the toys and like things of the time that it unfortunately shot itself in the foot. And I can kind of tell just as we go.
Yeah, and it was trying to do too much in a way because again, they're trying to appeal to adults and kids. And the toy line, in case maybe I wasn't super clear, it's sort of like laser tag. Like the vehicles could shoot each other. And it was more fun to play with the vehicles with themselves because you'd get a few hits and it would eject and the figure would pop out. But you were supposed to play with it with the TV. And I remember I didn't have one. And way later I got one, and I was able to finally play. And the gameplay isn't really that good. Yeah. It's like shoot the bad guys, but don't get hit. But it's kind of random. And if you notice, like all the laser effects have a certain look to them. That's why they had to be that certain look to make it work with the machines.
Yeah.
And
again, ahead of its time.
Yeah. Yeah.
This part was cool though. Like this whole 2 to 3 minute section of it where they get a message, he realizes it's from somebody, they go from there. Like this
again before the world fell apart, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's pandering in a kid show. It's like an actual cool like story thing that I'm curious about and interested in, but doesn't have anything that's not appropriate for all ages.
Right. And so he goes and he meets, and there's betrayal, like. And that's happened, like having watched the whole show, that happened a few times. Like because it's this destroyed world and they'd like try to trust someone and they'd sell them out for whatever, because like
for a bag of beans.
Yeah. It's a little bit like a more realistic RPM actually, because they have this little bastion of like humanity and they have the superpowers to fight back, but everyone else is wrecked. And so while RPM is trying to keep it upbeat and there are happy people and they're having shows and sales, like no. Anyone that is not in the power base or in their little sanctuary that you sometimes see is just trying to survive in this miserable world. And
well, they even say like, where's the signal coming from? Oh, it's coming from San Francisco. Now it's called blah, 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 rubble, capital, like something like super random. I didn't get this gas part, by the way.
You didn't? Okay. So they're going down. Captain Power and Pilot are going to meet Captain Power's old friend from before.
Yes, I know that part.
They get separated. She's looking around and she gets hit with this knockout gas from this character. That was a person with a helmet.
I thought that was a stationary thing. I didn't realize it was from a helmet.
No,
that was my bad.
Okay. So when you Captain Power, Jonathan Power, he armors up because he doesn't know what's going on. That's another thing that was always like kind of like Power Rangers where like there's a limited amount of power and you take damage, it'll go away.
We hear it the whole time. It's like you have 33%. He's like, I hear you. I hear it. Love that. Love that from a story perspective.
Yeah. Me too. And it goes down. He was at 30. He gets shot. It goes down to 15, like real quick. Yeah. So he comes in. This is the bookstore they used to play chess at, and he sits down by the chess machine. And then he has a flashback of who he used to play chess with in the before times. And then boom, here's this person. Notice the helmet. That's the same person that gassed Pilot. But then she takes off the helmet and he's like, "Oh, it's you."
So I missed that. So this was even more of a what is going on betrayal for me.
Okay. So like, yeah, when she came in with the helmet, I'm like, "Uh-oh, this is gonna be a problem," but you just thought out of nowhere.
I was like, well, I figured you were gonna find her, so that's cool. And then it's like, I was like, again, really good stuff. Like again, like I was invested. Yes, it was like, I don't want to say a super slow burn, but like it's the first episode. We got 30 seconds of backstory, and then we go through. But like everything in this held weight. She's like, I'm sorry, but this is easier. She just keeps saying like, this is easier. Let me get you.
Yeah, and I like too that it's not. You can understand the motivations. It's not like she just turned evil or she just, no, it's like she has lived in this digitized world and she'd rather die. And she cares enough about him that she's like, and because Lord Dredd even says like, she's betrayed us. And he's like, I knew it. They want to put him in the computer and find out what he knows and stuff. And she's like, I can't save you, but if I kill you, you at least won't be tortured. Like, I understand that motivation, like I get it.
And again, episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah. And for some reason, it didn't take off with the kids and the parents.
Yeah, again, if it had more adult appeal, might have gone a little bit longer, gotten that kind of Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica crowd.
If you gave it a different name and changed very little and just put it on at like 6 o'clock on Channel 7, I think it would have caught that crowd. Like you wouldn't even have to change it that much.
Do you know roughly when this came out?
I want to say it was 87.
I was going to say it's a little too early for like the Hercules Xena crowd, but I feel like that crowd would have gravitated toward the show.
Yeah.
This is like sci-fi Hercules Xena in terms of mostly family appropriate. That might be my show that I choose for a future episode because like I watched that all the time as a kid. I can tell you right now, there are definitely parts that aren't appropriate, but I don't know how inappropriate it was for children. But I watched a lot of it.
Yeah, so this was maybe 10 years before that, maybe a little less.
No. Like 5 to 7 tops.
When did Hercules? I thought Hercules started in like 95, 96.
Mid 90s. So yeah, like 8 years tops.
Between 5 and 10 years.
You do that. I'm going to look that up.
Okay. So he gets another hit and then he loses his armor and like all is lost. And she wakes up and she's like calls in the reinforcements, come get him. And while they're talking, she's explaining how horrible it is to be digitized. And that's a theme that comes up throughout the show. Digitizing is worse than death. Like you don't want to be digitized.
Yeah, I got that immediately. I'm like, oh,
but it's not a one-off for this episode. Like I remember as a kid being like terrified of being digitized. I'm like, yep, better dead than digitized. Like I get it. Like
and to their credit, it's not something that can happen. So is it a fear that you could have as a child? Yes. Is it something adults can talk away? Mostly.
Yeah. And this character, Sauron, is one of 2 fully CGI characters. They're the agents in the Matrix. Like all the other drones, but when these show up, like even see later, like takes the whole team to beat him, and he's never done. Like he regenerates, like he's never fully gone. Yeah. There was supposed to be another team member and another of these super robots because this is the air one, and they have a land one called Blastar, which was not in this episode, and they had a sea one called Tritor or Triton or something like that. And then there was a member of the team that could go underwater. I know his name, but I'm blanking on it. But both of those actually have figures because it was so far along in production that they thought they were going to be in the show. And my understanding is they were cut for budget reasons. Like we don't need a third CGI character in this show. Let's,
Interesting. For reference,
Stingray Jones, Stingray something. Stingray's
Hercules premiered in January of 1995.
So, depending on how you do the math, 8 or 9 years.
Well, I'm going to look up Captain Power now.
86, 87. Or 87, 88.
Did you already look?
Yeah.
Okay, well. It was 87 to 88.
So, the acting on her,
dude, look at it. Yeah, everything's great. Like, it's really good. It's unfortunate. It was ahead of its time in so many ways.
It's surprising to me that so few of the actors went on to do much more. The guy that played Hawk, you've seen. He's like an older guy. He's like a character actor. I remember seeing him on that show. I want to say Salvation. There was a sci-fi show. I can't remember.
Oh, I know.
But you would know him. He's popped up as like that guy. But most of the rest of them, not much. And they're all pretty good. So I don't know why.
But yeah, she is apologizing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't want you to get digitized. And he's like, yeah, I get it.
He's like let's get digitized together and fight from the inside. It's like, yeah, man, that's a hero.
Yeah. Again, this is 16 minutes into this series.
Yeah. I also think they're smart with the CGI. It gets janky at some time. Like in a still like this, it actually looks pretty good. The movement is a little janky, but they do a good job of smoke, darkness, obscuring. It's not like just sitting at a chair in a bright daylight, like I think that's smart. So here comes the cavalry. There's Hawk and everybody else. Hawk and Sauron fight a lot. Hawk always loses. It's more like I'm going to delay him, because he's not, but they were like arch enemies. And
definitely got Starscream vibes from Sauron.
I can see that. Yeah, something I never noticed as a kid. He has a tail, and some of the scenes that like waggles around like a cat, almost like. But I never noticed. It's like I
didn't because I was so focused on all the action areas.
Actually, it might not be a tail coming out of his butt. It might be coming out from his head, but it goes all the way down and it waggles around like with an attitude. So it's a tail essentially.
Yeah.
So they drive him off. They don't defeat him permanently, but they drive him off. And they're like, "We got to get out of here," and they get her back to base. Yeah, and I don't think we ever see her again.
I forget, what did they take out here?
It was like a tracking chip that had
what it was. Okay.
Controlling. Not controlling, but like listening to everything she says, following her. But they're like, "Oh, we're in a base; it's safe." We're like, "Let's smash it anyway," for a moment of levity. And then I also really like this moment because there's like a tension between Captain Power and Pilot. You could tell, and she's like, "Well, was she just a friend?" And they're not together, but like, and then everyone leaves. Okay, it's time to let them have a moment together. They all leave except Pilot, just sort of like lingered there for a while. It's like, all right, you too, man. Like, get out of here. What are you doing? We're gonna have a moment,
The one thing I will say is, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me say that at the end of the episode. But I do like how they actually do play a game of chess after this, and it references back 2 different times, which I'm like, very good callbacks in this episode, even though it's the first episode.
Yeah. And then he's like, "You're going to go to the catacombs," which is like the safety area, which I can't remember if they ever show it or not. They talk about it a lot. Like that's where the people they save go. I don't remember if they ever show it or not. And then this ending here was, if you're playing the game, this was the best place to play the game because it's set up just like, and there were animated videos that were like awesome 80s anime, which again had nothing to do with the show, but would come with some of the toys that were mostly just flight simulator things. And so I do remember playing this part of the show. This was like the part that made, because shoot that.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
And then you try to getting as many points as you can without getting 3 hits. And then don't get hit by the blast. Okay. Shoot these. So it actually was set up to work. Don't get hit by that.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah. But you wanted to say something at the end here.
So kind of how we've been reviewing these. Yeah, dude, awesome. How we've been reviewing these are, do we like it? Would we go back and watch it again? Do we only like it as a kid or an adult? I totally don't remember, but those are the generals. So this, I liked it. I wouldn't go back and watch it, and here's why. Is that I felt like it was so good, and it's very like actual like full story arc that like I can't just jump in. Like I would want to watch the full thing, and I know myself, and like I can't prioritize this over other shows I'm already not watching. So it's so good that I would not go back and just watch. You
want to just sample some more. You'd want to watch the whole season.
Yes, I'd either watch all of it or none of it.
Right. I'll tell you something funny. Well, finish. Go ahead. Finish your.
I think as a kid, I would have liked it, but parts of it would have scared me. Depending on the age, for sure. And then I'm curious if I would have liked the toys or not. Just because I would compare them directly to Power Rangers, and this is actually I probably wouldn't, because Power Rangers was more my cup of tea.
I do think I think G.I. Joe or Star Wars would be a better comparison in terms of the scale and the type of figures they were. They weren't great. I had Powers of the Force at the time. I don't know if I would get these to go with those. You know what I mean? I don't know if you'd like them or not. I think the appeal, the 2 things, forgetting about nostalgia, the 2 appealing parts is the interactive gameplay of shoot like a laser tag, and then it blows up and falls out of the cockpit. That was cool. And if you like playing with the TV, like I said, the videotapes that had like the actual stuff or the end of this, like I suppose that was pretty cool. As just like a toy to put on your shelf, the fact that it had some vacuum chrome was cool, but they weren't the best figures. I'm really. Oh, you know what? Keep talking for a second. I see when I can grab it.
I will say we forgot to touch upon this for Superhuman Samurai. I I love the theme song still. I think the theme song is still a banger.
It did have a good, yes, much better than either Street Sharks or Dinosaurs.
It was the best of any of the theme songs we've heard so far. Wow.
This was the first one I had, and I had it for a long time. Has Captain Power, and this is like the charging station that you can't use to charge the other toys. So it was a weird, like, Grandma got me this, and I'm like, I guess, but I'll show you the figure here. So this is Captain Power.
Nice.
So it kind of looks like him, and it's got the vacuum chrome, but it's very limited articulation. It's not a great figure, and they're all kind of not great. So unless you have a fondness for vacuum form or nostalgia, it really was better as a kid's toy because it had the interactivity. But like, would you have liked it as a kid? I don't know. I didn't even love it as a kid, but I had it, you know.
What was your review on both?
Well, Captain Power, I think is a great show. I think it holds up. I think I appreciate it more now as an adult than I did as a kid. Like I loved it as a kid, but I didn't understand like how, like why, and like, you know, I have a DVD set of it that I bought and watched years ago, you know, as an adult. I don't think you can get it anymore. I think it's one of those things where it wasn't available forever. The set came out, I got it, and then it wasn't available again. So like it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. But interestingly, I've watched every episode except for the very last episode. And that wasn't on purpose. It was a thing where something happened, we moved, blah, 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 and I never watched it. So I kind of unfortunately know the basic plot of what happened in the last episode, but now you got to go back when I have a minute before you, certainly. But like you, I want to just watch it straight through again. And I will, not today or tomorrow, but soon.
If anybody is inspired to watch this whole series, the DVD box set goes for between $40 and $80 on eBay.
That's not as bad as I've seen it. I think it's come down. It was over 100 at some point, but
in February it was 110.
That's okay, but you can see every episode on YouTube. So you know, and I know the actors aren't getting residuals or anything, so like just, you know, who cares? But yeah, I already have a handful of the toys that I've got for dirt cheap. That's the other thing. Well, I haven't checked the prices in a while, but most of them you get for next to nothing, you know, for vintage toys at least.
Yeah.
I think if you like Japanese tokusatsu, you should definitely check out an episode. I think it's good. I think it holds up. I have no problem telling people to watch it in modern day as an adult.
Yeah, no, it's solid. Now, flip side of that, Superhuman Samurai, where are you at?
What were the questions we're trying to answer again?
Did you like it now?
Yes.
Would you like it then?
I would like it more then. I think even then I would still be annoyed by the comic relief character. I think I was oversensitive to that as a kid. Like, and maybe it's in the 80s that like there were always like Dinosaurs is a bad example because everybody was comic relief. But I feel like every show was like a bunch of cool monsters fight a bunch of cool superheroes, and then hey everybody, I'm here to be goofy just so you don't get to. And I always was like, why is that character there? You know, and so even as a kid, I would not like that character. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the other stuff wouldn't bother me as much, and I would have loved all of the fighting superhero stuff. Like I and that theme song and that intro. If I didn't know what it was, and like I just and I looked over and I'd be like, whoa, I'm watching this. Like, you know, and so I would have loved it as a kid. Yes, absolutely.
And then I forget what would you go back and watch more of this?
I would definitely watch an episode or two again to get a better feel for it, but it made me more interested in watching Gridman.
Yeah. I think between the two, this was a good comparison of we would watch all of Captain Power. We would periodically glance over at Superhuman Samurai because it doesn't seem like there's an overarching plot at all.
Yeah, true. And it's not as good as Power Rangers. Well, actually, there's in Mighty Morphin first season, there are some ways this exceeds that, but there are other ways it doesn't. Like the civilian characters are better in Power Rangers, but I think Power Rangers also benefits from like a legacy of continuing and building, and this was just sort of like a one and done. So who knows if it would have got better if it kept going. I definitely think it's better than Beetleborgs. Mm-hmm. It's definitely better than Masked Rider.
Yeah,
and
VR Troopers, it might be on par, depending.
I think VR Troopers I might have liked better, but VR Troopers is another one where I didn't really watch as a kid, but years ago as an adult, I watched like a few episodes of it, and I remember liking it fairly well. So
If we ever review a one-off VR Troopers, I have one episode that is still burned in my brain that we will get to.
Okay, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
But I think that's it, unless you want to say anything else. Oh my gosh,
No,
we're at almost an hour.
I know. This is the latest we've ever recorded, by the way, off camera, time-wise. But what I will say, if you love this series, let us know. If you hate this series, let us know. If you have any suggestions of kind of themes or shows you want us to watch, let us know. It doesn't mean we're going to do
either. It could be movies, bands, comics. The whole idea is just from 70s, 80s up into 90s, or like late. We're shifted by like 10 years. So things that I would have seen, Also, I like the idea of comparing two. Would you prefer we don't? And do a shorter, like a half-hour show, and just look at one thing one week and one thing the next week? Any feedback is good. We like doing this. I think this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, this one, it's selfishly for us.
Yeah.
But if you guys like it, that's a bonus because we'll keep doing it. And if you guys don't like it, then we'll have to reconsider what we do.
Yeah, exactly. But for the time being, I've been Gazbot.
I am still the big dog. This week, I'm the cyber dog, though. And to the power. See
don't
guys
digitize me,
later.
bro! And I'll do the end credits. You know what I realized? I have an interview that I never posted from Power Motorcon.
Oh, nice.
So I need to get that and shoot. We've got a few ready, because I know you talked about not being able to record potentially in the future again once or twice. But we've got a few backlog now, which is good.
Hey, that's always a good problem to have on my end.
All right, I think that's it.
Samurais, guys.